You're not broken, my therapist said. You're being manipulated. It was the last session I booked before I planned to just disappear from everyone for a while. I had said I wanted clarity. What I didn't admit was that I wanted permission to stop fighting battles I couldn't name out loud. She leaned forward, still calm. You don't need to keep explaining your pain to people who benefit from not hearing it. That sentence hit harder than any diagnosis ever could. That evening, I got home to a plain white envelope taped to my door. No stamp, no return address. Just my name. Inside, a notarized copy of a real estate transaction. My apartment had been sold. The deed wasn't in my name. Hadn't been since the beginning. I was 23 when I bought it, barely out of school and freelancing. My mother had offered to hold the mortgage in her name so I could qualify. Just until you're stable, she said back then. You'll always have a place to come home to. Now I had no place. No say, no call. Just a document that said everything was gone. I sat down on the hallway floor with my back to the wall, not crying, not shaking, just blank. That's what betrayal by family feels like an absence that steals oxygen. There was no explosion, no dramatic scene, just silence and one very clear message. You were never meant to own anything here. The therapist had warned me weeks before. Pay attention to what people do when they think you won't fight back. I'd tried to believe it wasn't intentional, that maybe they thought they were helping, that it was all just a mix-up. But people don't accidentally sell your home without telling you. They do it when they're counting on your silence. And that was the last time I let them count me out. My family never said the cruel things out loud. They let the air say it for them. When I was 8, I remember getting a school award, nothing big, just perfect attendance. I brought the certificate home, beaming, holding it like a medal. My mother glanced at it once and said, "Imagine if you actually tried." That was love. In my house, praise with a sharp edge, affection wrapped in critique. After my dad died when I was 14, the emotional economy shifted. He had been the buffer, the translator between me and the rest of them. Without him, everything became tighter, sharper, transactional. I stopped sharing good news. It wasn't worth the cost. When I got into college, my brother told me not to get too comfortable. When I got my first job, my mother said, "Just remember who helped you get there." When I saved enough for a down payment on a condo, she said, "Put it in my name for safety." The implication was always the same. Everything I had, I owed them. I learned early how to shrink myself, to never ask for too much, to make success look accidental so no one felt threatened. Any boundary I tried to set was met with guilt. After all we've done for you, you think you're better than us now. You're not the only one with problems. They didn't scream. They didn't need to. Disappointment hung heavier than rage. I began to doubt my own memory, my own motives, my own rights. That's what manipulation does best. It doesn't erase the truth. It buries it in shame. So when the apartment went under my mother's name, I told myself it was practical, that it was family, that it was safe. I wanted to believe trust could live where control once sat. But control doesn't move out when trust moves in. It just hides in the walls. Looking back, I see it clearly. They were never planning to protect what I built. They were waiting for the right moment to take it, and I had trained myself not to see it coming. The morning after I got the papers, I brewed coffee like nothing had happened. The apartment still smelled like me, my books on the shelves, my robe on the door hook. But it wasn't mine anymore, and that dissonance did something strange. I didn't cry. I took inventory. I didn't know what fight I was preparing for yet. I just knew I was done losing by default. The first thing I did was open a new bank account under a different institution, one with no shared history, no overlaps, no emergency contact ties to my family. I changed every password, removed recovery emails they might have guessed. Then I called the storage unit, where I kept my documents leases, tax filings, utility bills in my name for the apartment. I drove there that afternoon and scanned everything. PDF, chronological, labeled. I added them to a private cloud folder, then backed it up offline. Twice. I stopped answering messages that sounded like obligation, stopped explaining why. When my mother texted asking if I could co-sign for a new phone plan, I replied, "I'm not available for financial requests right now." She sent back a single word, "Ungrateful." I screenshotted it and added it to the folder. I wasn't collecting revenge. I was collecting proof. My therapist called it documenting your reality, because when emotional abuse gets questioned, you need receipts. I called a friend of a friend attorney and asked if she knew someone discreet. She referred me to a civil litigation lawyer named Erica, who specialized in intrafamily asset disputes. When we met, Erica didn't ask me how I was feeling. She asked for dates, names, ownership records, call logs. She took me seriously. That was all it took to break something open in me. Not pity, not encouragement. Just someone who treated my pain like it deserved structure. We made a list. Accounts to separate, assets to freeze, legal steps to preserve standing. Erica warned me, the more you detach, the more they'll escalate. Expect guilt, gaslighting, even threats. That's not panic, it's exposure. She wasn't wrong. The silence I gave them wasn't passive. It was strategic. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't managing their emotions. I was protecting mine. The first sign wasn't dramatic. It was paperwork. A call from the bank. A soft-spoken woman asking me to confirm a few details for a personal loan. I blinked at the phone like I'd misheard. Loan. She read off the amount, $38. 00, and asked if I was still planning to co-sign with my brother. I told her I had no idea what she was talking about. She paused. Awkward silence blooming between us. The application was submitted with your name, Miss Reyes, along with your vehicle title as collateral. My car, still in my name. I asked her to email the documents. When they came through, I recognized my brother's handwriting on the forms, but the signature, meany, almost enough to fool someone skimming, but wrong enough to make me feel sick. That night, I drove to the apartment I no longer owned. There was a for sale sign out front. I recognized the Realty logo. It was my cousin's agency. Of course. I knocked. A man in a suit answered. He said he was prepping for a showing the next day. I asked him who gave him access. The seller's mother. She had the key. I texted my mother. You gave someone a key to my apartment. Her reply came fast. It's not your apartment anymore. Don't be dramatic. There it was. The script. Minimize. Reframe. Dismiss. I sat in my car for almost an hour, watching the porch light of what used to be my safe place flicker on and off with the movement of strangers. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was stunned. But underneath that numbness, something began to click into place. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't miscommunication. It wasn't a misunderstanding rooted in good intentions. It was strategy. It was coordinated, and it had been set in motion long before the therapist ever said, "You need to stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from not understanding you." The car, the forged loan, the silent sale, none of it was spontaneous. They knew exactly what they were doing, and the moment they realized I wouldn't scream, they assumed I wouldn't fight. They were wrong. The girl they raised to stay quiet, she'd already lawyered up, and she was taking notes. I didn't burn it all down. I filed. The next morning, I showed up at Erica's office with a full case folder organized, indexed, backed up. Everything from the fake loan to the forged real estate transfer, down to a single text message that simply read, "You're being paranoid. We've always taken care of you." Erica flipped through the documents like she was reading a story with a very predictable ending. "This isn't just misconduct," she said. "This is systemic. This is fraud, coercion, and maybe elder abuse depending on who else they've done this to." We laid out the first steps like a war map. File a cease and desist to the real estate agent. Submit a fraud report to the bank about the forged loan. Petition the court to freeze the title transfer of the apartment. Notify the DMV that the car title was unlawfully pledged as collateral. Everything we filed was cold, calm, precise. No drama, just documentation. I sent no angry texts, made no phone calls, didn't even block them. I didn't need to let them wonder. I started shutting down access in layers, bank accounts, passwords, shared bills. The joint family Netflix, every shared breadcrumb of data was erased, locked, or relocated. I kept a spreadsheet. Each row was a boundary reclaimed. Every time they tried to contact me, I logged it. My brother sent 5 messages in a single hour. My mother emailed twice. Subject line, "Let's talk like adults." Then came the guilt texts. "I can't believe you do this to your own family. This isn't how we raised you." They had spent years teaching me that silence meant shame. But now, I used it like a shield. Every non-response was a choice. Erica had warned me. They'll escalate when they lose control. Expect panic masked as concern. Right on schedule, my cousin called pretending to check in. Asked if I was doing okay, if I needed anything. I asked if he was still representing the apartment. He hung up. We weren't playing the same game anymore. They were trying to play family. I was playing legal. I wasn't emotional. I was exact. Each form filed. Each signature challenged. Each lie exposed. It was one more tile in the record I was building. Not just for the court. For me, this wasn't vengeance. It was correction. And I was almost done letting them write the story. It started with a name on a deed. Erica noticed it first, a second property listed under my mother's name, co-signed by someone unfamiliar. A woman with the same last name as my aunt. I asked around, quietly. Turns out, my aunt had transferred part of her late husband's land temporarily to my mother for legal simplification. That was 5 years ago. She still hadn't gotten it back. I found the story buried in a sealed civil case, an inheritance dispute resolved privately with signatures that looked just familiar enough. Different victim, same script. Then came the cousin, my mother's niece. We'd grown up together, but she disappeared years ago. Moved states, changed numbers, never called back. I looked her up, found a lawsuit she filed at 19. Same charges. Unauthorized financial activity, forged authorization, emotional distress, settled in under 2 months. Sealed, silenced. That's when I realized this wasn't about me. This was a system, a quiet, intergenerational machine that ran on guilt, image, and plausible deniability. Women like us, we were resources, to be leveraged, softened, positioned, as long as we cooperated. The system functioned. Step out of line, and you were ungrateful. Speak up, and you were dramatic. Try to leave, and they made you think you were the one tearing the family apart. My mother didn't invent this, but she mastered it. It was how she survived. And now, it was how she controlled. I stopped calling it dysfunction. That word was too soft, too accidental. This was organized, and it wasn't going to stop on its own. I wasn't out to punish them, but I wasn't going to play my role anymore. If cutting ties meant cutting through a history no one dared touch, so be it. I'd rather be the one who left than the next one silenced. It didn't happen at a dinner table or a family gathering. It happened in a courtroom hallway. I had filed the injunction 2 weeks prior, asking the court to freeze the apartment title while we investigated the forged transfer. The hearing was procedural, just a formality, but they showed up anyway. My mother, my brother, my cousin, all dressed like it was a church service. Somber faces, pressed clothes, controlled outrage. They saw me across the hallway and acted surprised. My brother tried to approach. "We can fix this. Don't drag everyone into court." I said nothing. He looked back at my mother, then leaned in closer. "You're really going to make this public?" I looked him dead in the eye. "It already is, inside." The judge reviewed the documents. Erica did most of the talking clean. Direct, unemotional. The forged signature, the bank's email, the sequence of events. She didn't editorialize. She just built the wall. Their lawyer tried to play it down. This is a misunderstanding within a family. Emotions were high. Papers were misplaced. The judge wasn't buying it. He asked if I'd like to make a brief statement. I stood. My voice didn't shake. This isn't about hurt feelings. It's about fraud. I bought that apartment. I made those payments. I trusted people I loved. And they used that trust to erase me. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm asking for the law to catch up to the truth. When I sat down, my mother whispered something to her attorney. The judge ruled to freeze the title transfer and allow full discovery into the financial activity tied to my name. That was the moment the power shifted. Not with yelling, not with threats, but with records and silence. After the hearing, my mother followed me into the hallway. "You don't have to do this," she said. "We're family." I turned. "You should have remembered that before you sold my home." She opened her mouth, closed it. I walked away, not triumphant, not angry, just done. There's a quiet in that kind of finality. It doesn't roar, it doesn't echo, it just ends. And some things are better for it. The investigation took 3 months. 3 months of bank statements, notarized documents, discovery requests, and silence. My lawyer said it was moving fast. It didn't feel that way. I kept working, kept teaching my workshops, kept running my quiet routines like the ground beneath me wasn't slowly shifting back into place. But behind the scenes, things were breaking apart for them. The court froze 3 more assets under my mother's name, pending investigation. My brother's forged loan triggered a fraud alert that locked his accounts for over a month. My cousin's license was flagged for conflict of interest. One by one, the pieces of their machine stopped moving. Erica called me the morning the judgment came in. I was drinking tea. She didn't build it up. "The judge ruled in your favor. The apartment reverts to you. All transfers voided. Financial damages approved, $92. What else?" I didn't feel relief. Not right away. Just quiet. We settled the matter privately. I signed a non-disparagement clause in exchange for control over the narrative. They didn't admit guilt, but the paperwork said everything they wouldn't. The apartment was mine again. But I didn't move back in. I sold it. Used part of the money to pay off old debt. The rest went into a small, anonymous fund that helps women in asset recovery cases. I didn't tell anyone. My mother sent one email. No apology. Just 4 words. We're still your family. I didn't reply. The truth is, they were never going to understand what they did. Not really. Because people who benefit from systems rarely see the system as a problem. But the court saw it. The documents saw it. The law saw it. And I saw it. That was enough. There was no scene. No final showdown. Just paperwork. Just boundaries. Just me untangled. And if that's not justice, I don't know what is. I moved west 6 weeks after the case closed. Not for drama. Not to vanish. Just to breathe. I rented a small house near a lake in Oregon. The kind with wood siding, soft light, and a porch that creaked under your feet. I bought second-hand furniture, started composting, slept with the windows open. Most mornings I walked to the local cafe and answered emails for freelance design clients. I taught a community class on digital literacy twice a week. No one asked about my family. No one knew my name from court documents. It was perfect. I wasn't hiding. I was healing. Some days I still felt the echo of their voices. In the grocery store. In my inbox. In the moments between tasks. Guilt has a long reach, even after it's been disarmed. But the further I got from the system that raised me, the more I realized how quiet the world could be when no one's monitoring your choices. No one was keeping score. No one was waiting for me to slip up just to say, "We warned you." It wasn't peace all the time, but it was mine. One evening, I stood on the porch with a cup of tea and watched the sun go down behind the trees. I didn't think about what I'd lost. I thought about what I'd finally stopped giving away. And for the first time, that felt like enough. I wrote the email late one night. It wasn't angry. It wasn't even long. Just a few sentences I wanted to say without interruption, without defense, without tears. You didn't break me. You just reminded me who I could be without you. You called me selfish for leaving, but I finally chose myself. I never sent it. I kept it in my drafts for months. Then, one morning, I deleted it. Not out of forgiveness, out of freedom. Not everything needs to be said. Not every truth demands an audience. Some victories don't end with applause. They end with peace. I closed the laptop, put the kettle on, sat at my desk and opened a letter from a former student. "Thanks to you," she wrote, "I know how to protect what's mine." And just like that, I knew I had already said enough.